Welcome back. In the second video of Soviet special rules, I'm going to go over some of their artillery rules and some infantry rules and some tank rules that apply to the Soviets. So one of the first ones I want to go over, we don't need this for it, is an artillery rule called steel wall. Now when I'm discussing steel wall, I do not have the models for it, so I'm going to use my USA artillery pieces for this to help explain what's going on, and I've got different sized barrels for this situation. So artillery batteries that contain a 76 millimeter gun, so I'm using a really short barrel for that one, 122 millimeter howitzers, so that's a really long barrel there, and 120 millimeter mortars, so I'm just going to use this for it. 122 millimeter mortars. They can combine, they got their shots together, and you'd have to use the mixed bombardment rule with this. However, they have a special rule with the Soviets is they can shoot separately. This can pick its target, and this can pick its target. So if the 122 and 120 millimeter guns shoot in bombardment and they decide they're going to split their fire, so this is going to shoot at one target, this is going to shoot at a different target, you have to decide what you're going to do with the 75 millimeters. Now they can take some or all of the 75 millimeters and add it to their shooting to get up to a bigger template, maybe. So I'd be maybe going up to the double width template, or if you have enough pieces, going up to the devastating bombardment template. So that's a possibility. So let's say there's 4 pieces here, which I'm going to throw out here. So here's the 4 pieces, and we're going to pretend like this has 4 and this has 4. So just to keep it simple. So they're going to shoot at a separate one. This is going to shoot at a different target than this one. So I'm going to aim them in different directions. Now, they can just shoot by themselves. They can shoot by themselves. They can shoot by themselves. So that's a little bit different rule than normally allowed about splitting your fire up with, one platoon shooting. But say, this one you want to shoot, but it's only getting this template, and you really want the bigger template. So you're going to have to add these in with it, because you want this to shoot at something else to really do some major damage. So you can take 1, 2, 3, or 4 of those. How many is ever there? You can take up to. You can take 1 part, all, and add it to this to try to get your template size up. But when you do that, you start going to the mixed bombardment rule, which will probably lower this gun's anti-tank and its firepower down to the lowest. So the same thing applies. I think I almost took the wrong gun there. The same thing applies to this one. Now, you can go, I want 1 here, and I want 3 of these here. You can do that. You can split them up how you want. It's the 75 millimeter ones is the one you're going to be splitting up, not the others. Now, let's say they don't want any. Well, actually, let me do this first. They take 1, 2, they take none, and there's 2 left over here. So they're going to get to shoot, they're going to get to shoot, they're going to get to shoot. No. If you take any of the 75 millimeter guns and add them to a bombardment, you're splitting bombardment up, these do not get to shoot. So your 75s you don't take over don't get to shoot. Now, if you don't take any of them, yeah, they will get to shoot. But once you start pulling one of them away, the ones you don't pull do not get to shoot. And again, if you can put these all together in one shot, get a really big template, but again, your firepower and your anti-tank will probably go down. Or, I just want this one to get a bigger template, so you can just add everything to that one. There we go. Bigger template, but the firepower and anti-tank's gone down. But this one remains the same. It's firepower and anti-tank. So that's what steel wall gives the Soviets is a little versatility in their artillery. All right, let me clear this out for the next thing. All right, the next thing is roll up the guns. And this applies to Soviet, and again, I don't have the model, so I'm just going to have to use my USA. So it applies to medium and heavy guns and staff teams. Normally, these move 4 inches period. Whether on the road, open country, or through terrain, they're going to move 4 inches. But Soviets have a little special rule with their medium and heavy guns and staff team, in which if it's cross country or road, so there's no difficult terrain going on, they get to move as fast as infantry, which is that 6 inches. However, if they do go through difficult or rough terrain, they do go back down to that 4 inches. So if it's clear, they can keep up with infantry. If they start going through that rough terrain, they're going to slow down to that 4 inches, which is their normal movement through rough terrain. So that's it. That was a really simple one. So that's roll up the guns. All right, the next thing is, and this is going to be the last part with artillery for Soviets, and that's volley fire. And it's not only artillery, so I'm going to put a gun team out here. This applies to gun teams, but also applies to turretless tanks, such as this Su-100. Now, what it does is, if they did not move in the movement step, they may re-roll failed to hits, provided that the easiest team to hit is within 16 inches. So, I've got, some bad guys up there. To the Soviets, they're bad guys. Now, is the easiest one to hit? Well, there's this one. They're all in the open, so is it within 16? Yes, the others are out of 16, but this one's within 16, so it's able to do the volley fire, which is, it normally has one shot. These guys are veterans, so you're looking at 4s. Missed, but it didn't move, and it's got volley fire. Hit. So it now got to hit the tank. So that's what volley fire does. It gives you that reroll, but the stipulation is cannot have moved, and the easiest target hit has to be within 16 inches. Now, there are some weapons that it will not apply to. That is, any machine guns it may have. So if this has some machine guns, it's not going to get the rerolls. Any heavy machine gun team. So remember, gun teams, man-pack gun teams are gun teams. So this applies to man-pack gun teams. But if they're a heavy machine gun, they don't get to do it. Anti-aircraft weapons won't get this ability. And also, if you're firing any artillery bombardment, so you don't get to roll that 2-range in, or roll the hit roll for those under the template, you don't get that with this. It's more just, you're just doing a straight shot, think of it that way. And because the enemy's coming in so quickly, you don't get it during defensive fire. And last is if you're doing ambush or an ambuscade attack, you don't get to do this. So think of it, it's just a regular shot on your turn, no templates, just doing a regular shot on your turn. You didn't move, and the easiest targets within 16 inches, and you are either a gun team or a turretless tank. You get to do this volley fire. Okay. Nice little reroll there. Especially for your turretless tanks. And if they only have one shot, they're getting technically 2 chances to hit with that one shot. Alright, the first infantry rule for Soviets I'm going to talk about is quality of quantity. And for the Soviets to get this, the you must have at least 15 infantry or gun teams that are in command. So here's our command. Well, just in command, yeah. So they're in command. You can also count any attached teams to them, any warriors, and any independent teams that have joined them. So that's kind of nice. You just get to count everything, it sounds like, for this rule. So if they have at least 15 of those in there, now don't count transports, vehicles. It sounds like it's just men. Things with men, you get this quality of quantity. So what does this quality of quantity give you? Well, it gives you a couple things. Here's the first one. So I definitely have at least 15. And it's the USA's turn. These Shermans are up here. They're like, you know what? We got to take these guys down a little bit. There's just so many of them. And they're heading towards the objective. Whew, this is going to be a real pain. So the Shermans are going to open up with all their machine guns on these guys. So they have a pole-mounted, a coaxial, and an anti-aircraft. So they're going to get 5 dice each. So they're going to get this 15 dice. And we're going to say that these are trained. So I need 4s to hit because they're in the open. And 1. Those 2. 1. And that's it. So that's how many times I hit with those 15 dice. Did pretty good. So I hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. So these guys, I did what I needed. I have pinned them. Woohoo! No, I did not pin them. What quality of quantity does, if you start the shooting step with this, you must take at least 10 hits in the shooting step before you become pinned. Man, I fell by 1. So if I would have just got 1 more hit, I would have pinned them. Now they're going to have to make their saves as usual, but I failed to pin them with that. Now if I hit them 1 more time, then they'll be pinned as usual. And if they fall, but they have to start with that at the starting step. So I was about to say if they fall below, but it says at the start. Now, what if I decided, you know what? I'm just going to, so I didn't do this yet, so we're going to pretend like this didn't happen. So I did not pin them. I would normally pin them because I only need 5 hits, but with that quality quantity, it's doubled. I need 10. But what if I go in with like my artillery and I ranged in, rolled a hit, and I hit 3 people. Or I just say, let's just say I hit once. Are they pinned? They have quality of quantity. Takes 10 hits. I hit once. Using my artillery. Doing artillery bombardment. Yes. It still only takes 1 hit. And they don't say in the book, but I believe just 1 hit from an airplane, sniper, and so forth will also pin them down. But it doesn't say in the book, but it does specifically point out about artillery bombardments. So there is a way you can pin this huge force down. And if they're reluctant, they're going to have to get 5s. Fail. Do you know what? Got a commissar. You out of here. Oh, they made it. Okay, so there is ways you could try to slow them down with pinning, and that's one of those with artillery. Now, not only does a quality of quantity help with being pinned down from, needing 10 shots, but if they start the assault step with 15 or more of those units that I just talked about, to make it quality of quantity, when they charge into contact, they normally you move the closest to closest, and then everybody within that can make it within 4, and then everybody within 8 can charge in after that. Quality of quantity says, no, you can go 12 inches away. Anybody within 12 inches of the assaulting teams that made it can charge into contact. So that makes it even a larger group that can come in. That does include doing a counterattack. So if Shermans came in and attacked, and it's their turn to counterattack, well, how they can go 12 inches out and start bringing more people in for that counterattack. Now, if they have at least 15 of these assaulting, they still have to take 10 hits from defensive fire before they're pinned down. So it takes a lot of firepower to knock these guys where they won't come into assault. Normally it only takes 5, but if you have at least 15 of these units, remember the warrior people that joined, the independent teams and all that count. Well, the independent team won't count because they won't be assaulting. It's those that are assaulting. You have to have at least 15. It still takes 10 hits from defensive fire to pin them down and force them to fall back. So that makes Soviets really nasty if they can get up and assault you. If they have enough troops, left, because they're not that hard to hit normally because they're not very well trained. All right, so I'm going to clear this out to get ready for the next thing. All right, the next rule I want to talk about, I'm just going to throw these guys out here. I'm not going to throw as many. This is just to illustrate. So that's all I'm going to throw out there. Let me tilt this down. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about for infantry, and I'm probably going to mess up the name, it's called Shtraf companies. And how do you know if you can get a Shtraf company? I'm going to this one, and if you look down here, it says Shtraf company right there. Remember, company is platoon, battalion is company. So this is a Shtraf platoon. So that's how you know. You can look for the name. And what does that give you? Well, basically, these are troops, I guess, that have not been up to Stalin's standards, and they have failed. So they're put in this group, and they are basically considered an assault platoon. So if your battalion, which would be company, battalion, company, same thing. It does get very confusing. So I'm just going to say company, just to keep it simple. So any company that has a Shtraf platoon always attacks in any mission. So you get the always attacks, so they're on the go right there. Now, one of the things is, this company, since it's an attack unit, can never, ever dig in the game. They're always on the move, wanting to get out, assault, do whatever. So no digging in. Also, if the mission has prepared positions, they don't get that. They do not start in foxholes. They're out in the open, ready to go. Now also, they do get a nice little bonus in that when they're required to take a motivation test, the rest of your army may be reluctant, so it needs a 5, and, I made it. There we go. Failed. You know what? With a 2, they succeeded. They succeed on motivation test on a 2+. Wow. Talk about get going, but they don't benefit from that digging in and stuff like that, so be careful about that. And another thing you don't count these guys towards is when you're looking to do a company morale check as far as how many platoons are destroyed to how many are still going. They don't count. It's like they don't exist for that purpose. So they don't count against you. They don't count for you either. So that's what a Shtraf company does. Basically, they're going to be on the go. They can never dig in. They don't get prepared positions. They do have a really nice motivation level, a 2 plus, and they don't count towards your number of platoons for a company morale check. All right, now we're going to head into the Soviet tanks. All right, the next thing I want to go over with tanks is first the infamous hen and chicks for the Soviet Union. So basically, if I'm running around with my Shermans, so I'll bring one up here. If I'm running around with my Shermans, I can move 1, 2, 3, all, none. I've got a choice here when I want to move my Shermans. Well, with Soviet Unions, they basically followed their leader. So that's why I have this tank being different, so you can understand this is the leader, and these are the others. So this is the hen, and these are the chicks. Hence the name, which you'll understand. If you don't know the rule, you'll understand it just a little bit. So that's why this one's different, to make it easier to understand what's going on here. So this is the platoon commander, or what would be company commander for this platoon or company. I keep doing that so you can get that in your head about the Soviet Union and how they call things. All right, so if this one moves, the platoon commander moves, all of them have to move. If he moves, they're all going to move. And try to stay in command as usual. Okay, that's kind of different. If he doesn't move, they cannot move. So it's an all or nothing thing with the Soviet Union. They're basically, wait, the commander, what is he doing? Oh, he's moving. Let's go, guys. Wait, what? Oh, he's moving. The leader's going. Oh, yeah. Oh, all right. Whoa, wait for me. Okay, so that's what's happening there. Now, if none of these move, which basically means he did not move, those still out of command distance can move up here to get in command. So they're not stuck back there just because he didn't move. So if they're out of command, any transports or the tanks or wherever can try to get back into command. But if they are in command, they are only going to move if their leader moves. Now, that's not the only bad thing about this. When they move, which means they're all moving, all of these add 1 to their difficulty to hit their target. So normally, if they move, they get 2 shots, they're down to 1, and they're trying to hit a veteran target, it'll be a 4. Well, they moved. They're still down to 1 die. Now they need a 5. Wow. So it makes it 1 harder to hit. Well, what about a tank like this that only gets 1 shot? It moved, so normally you'd need a 4. It moved, so it has to add 1 for a 1-shot weapon that moved, but also has to add 1 because of the hen and chicks rule. So now it's looking at 6s to hit. So keep that in mind, that about the hen and chicks, it has to do with movement, but also it makes it harder for your tanks to hit the opponent. Now, there are some weapons on the tanks and stuff that will not be affected by this +1 to hit because you moved, and that is the machine guns. So they'll get their normal 3 shots, probably needing 4s instead of 5s to hit, and hit once, and so forth. And also flamethrowers. So it's really just going to be like the main gun that's going to be shooting. That's going to take that penalty. So that's really it with hen and chicks. I'm just going to leave these out here because the next thing I'm just going to talk about is cupolas. And basically, tanks fitted with this, with the commander's cupola, does not suffer from limited vision. And what limited vision is, let's say, well, actually, I'm going to move these guys. So I have this T-30, which is losing its turret here. It's T-34 is wanting to shoot at the Sherman. Okay, fine. But what if the Sherman is beyond the front the turret. Well, it's going to have to turn its turret. And normally, that wouldn't be a penalty. Like, I can move my Shermans and I still get my full rate of fire. It's if I rotate over that 90 degrees, then I'm going to hit that, go from 2 shots to 1 shot. Well, with limited vision, if it's past the front of your cupola and you rotate, you take that +1 penalty to hit. With, well, I should say with limited vision. With cupola, it eliminates that and you still get your 2 dice. So that's what cupola does. Pretty simple little rule. Just gets rid of that limited vision. All right, now we'll put this guy out there. If you have, and I'm going to totally mess up this name, Tankodesantniki. So I don't know. Basically, they have tank escorts. So that means, you know, when they go into assault, they get 2 extra dice. When they shoot, it can shoot, they can shoot, and so forth. So it's just basically giving them tank escorts, which I've talked about before. Actually, I'm going to put this back out here for the last thing. And I'm going to get a different tank. There we go. We're going to go with T-34 here. Okay, tank riders. So teams with tank rider companies, they call it platoons. Normally, if the tank gets hit by anything, they have to do 5+ save to stay alive. Well, with this tank rider rule for the Soviet Union, they get a normal save at 3+, just like infantry. Now, they also do not need to dismount under fire when hit as normal things do. They just remain on the tank and continue. If they fail, then of course they're dead. But if they make it, which, made it both ways. Let's see. Oh, 1 fell. I'm going to roll, I'm going to roll something. There, finally. Normal tank riders would have died. They are still alive. God, die. It's feast or famine with that one. So, that's what tank riders do for the Soviet Union. Wow. It's pretty nice to actually be able to ride around with that 3+ instead of a 5+. So, I believe that's it for Soviet special rules. Wasn't that? They got some pretty interesting little rules there that are kind of twist, but they got some. That Chin and Chicks is really a nasty one for them, though. Next, it looks like we're going to be heading into British special rules. So, until next time, have a good game.